1 in 7 women don't find out they have it until it's too late, when their chances of survival drop from 90% to as low as 20%, up to 30%. This girl was born in 1971. Dermot Harris, her real father, died, and Pierce Brosnan took her in as his own child in 1986. He named her after himself, loved her, and made room in his heart for her. No amount of love, though, could break the curse that had already killed 2 families. Pierce felt more than just sadness over the death of his daughter. It was seeing bad things happen over and over again in history. He lost his wife Cassandra to the same illness in 1991. She had 8 surgeries and chemotherapy for 18 months. Being able to watch someone you love slowly die was what he called life-changing. It changes everything in your life. The man told her, "You're dealing with death. Things change." Then Charlotte had the same thing happen to her 22 years later. Pierce stood on stage at the 2014 Stand Up to Cancer event and gave a speech from the heart. "It was a sad day when my first wife Cassie died of ovarian cancer." He said, "I held her kind, strong, and beautiful hand. I also held the hand of my funny, wonderful daughter Charlotte before she did last year. This terrible disease was passed down and killed them. It wasn't just new sadness, it was horrible, dark, and painful all over again." This was best said by Ron Roylance, one of Pierce's best friends. Charlotte's illness brought a darkness. Pierce was having the same bad dream over and over. He was in love again. In 2001, he married Keely Shea Smith and they had a child that has 2 boys named Dylan and Paris. Once Charlotte got sick, though, everything came back to her. Every memory and powerless moment. Roylance said that he was beyond sad, but Healy stood by him and held him together even though he was in a lot of pain. Then the worst part came out. Charlotte tied the knot. She said "I do" to Alex Smith on June 14, 2013. Her partner for a long time. She wasn't there after 2 weeks. On June 28, 2013, exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she died in London. It was Alex, her 2 kids, Isabella 15 and Lucas 8, and her brothers Christopher and Sean who were all around her. She was born and went to school for acting in London, which is also where her life ended. After she died, Pierce put out a short statement. "With grace, kindness, courage, and respect, Charlotte fought her cancer. It was amazing how strong she was. She planned her wedding even though she was dying. She wanted her kids to know that love was still important." Isabella, her daughter, was 15 years old when she lost her mother. Charlotte, her other daughter, was the same age. The boy was 8. Pierce's kid Sean was the same age when his mother died. It was almost too exact and cruel to hear the echo of history. Charlotte's friends said she was the kind of mom who did everything for her kids. Claire Beckwith, her friend, recalls that she told her that she no longer cared about acting. She said, "This is my family. I want to love them very much." In just 2 weeks, Alex Smith went from being married to being divorced. He now had to take care of 2 kids whose mother had just left them. Pierce, who was now a grandfather, took over. He was sad again, but he tried to be strong for the people who were left behind. But not all of Charlotte's brothers were able to handle things. Christopher Brosnan took a big hit. He was only 19 years old when Cassandra died in 1991. He promised. Pierce's Bond movies such as Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough had him working on them. But the pain got to him. In 1996 he got a £1,000 fine for driving while drunk. He went to jail for 3 months the next year for doing it again. It then got drugs, like GHB and heroin. He passed out outside of a club in London and fell into a coma. In 2012, when he was 32 years old, he was caught again, this time for having heroin on him. He was no longer with the Hollywood drug scene and was no longer the person he used to be. Christopher went out in public for the first time in 20 years in June 2024. Photographers caught him outside of a London food store. He was thin, alone, and 51 years old. Keely Shea Smith, on the other hand, was fighting her own war. The press made fun of her weight for years. Before and after shots were shown to show how her body changed from when she was young to when she was a mother. The internet was full of trolls. Pierce wouldn't have it. He stood up for her in a post that is now famous. "I love every curve on her body. I think she is the most beautiful woman in the world. She also had our 5 children." In 2024, Keely, who is now 61 years old, lost 100 pounds. There is no surgery or quick fix. Just walks, swimming, eating whole foods and waiting. Most of all, respect for yourself. "Thankfulness for all my body has given and done in 60 years, she wrote online. Pierce and she had been married for 23 years in August 2024. It had been 31 years since they met. They were strong through tragedy, scandal, and sadness. Pierce called her his north, south, east, and west on their anniversary. Keeley answered, "You are the most wonderful, kind, and beautiful person I have ever met." They were recently seen at George Clooney's Broadway show in April 2025. Keeley wearing a black dress with lace. Pierce, who is still nice and steady, he keeps working no matter what. In 2022, he was cast as Dr. Fate in Black Adam. The director said Pierce was the right amount of strong and calm. He's still one of the coolest guys in Hollywood at 71 years old. He's also a fighter. He has made sense of his pain and used it for good. He is now an advocate and has been a UNICEF representative since 2001. He's taken part in Greenpeace protests, spoken out against nuclear tests, and raised money to help people learn about cancer. He once skipped the French opening of GoldenEye to protest nuclear weapons. He told her he would do anything, call anyone, go anywhere, and beg if he had to while she was sick. His only wish was for her to live. He still wants to save other people even though he couldn't save her. He wanted to love them the way he never was loved as a child. He looked out for their safety, happiness, and sense of being seen. In 1981, a magical thing took place. Cassie was only cast in the Bond movie to look good on you. Before Pierce even thought about becoming 007, she played a Bond girl. But while Pierce was shooting, she met Albert Broccoli, who makes movies for James Bond. Cassandra had faith in him. He took the part because she pushed him to. Broccoli liked Pierce and thought he could be the next James Bond. Pierce, on the other hand, was bound by a deal with Remington Steele. He wasn't fit for the part. Not yet, so badly did Cassandra want it for him. She never did see it happen though. Everything changed in 1987. It got really sick for Cassandra while Pierce was making The Deceivers in India. They got back to London by plane. The news was awful. She had cancer of the ovaries. It's not just a small lump or something simple to treat. It was everywhere. The news came as a huge shock. Pierce told us from the start that we were in for a fight. After that, 4 terrible years came. 8 surgeries were done on Cassandra. She had chemo for a year and a half. She lost her hair. Her body got weaker. She was strong though. She had doubts about every method. The girl chose for herself. She was brave through it all. Pierce always stood by her. He was always there and called himself the quiet party. But he wasn't always able to do anything. When he was little, their son Sean would sometimes act like he was a doctor. It broke my heart. The cancer that killed Cassandra's mother had also killed her. It wasn't just bad luck. It was in the genes. That made things worse. They had to worry about Charlotte too now. Pierce began to push for early testing and education. He wanted to help other people, but it was too late for Cassandra. Her time was up in December 1991. Cassandra whispered to Pierce, "Please, darling, don't worry," as they lay in bed one night. Pierce was very sad. This is just the end of a life. Even at the end, she was still the strong one. She didn't want AIDS or hospitals. She wanted to be treated with respect. She chose how to die. On December 28, 1991, she passed away. She was only 43 years old. Pierce and Nicholas, her son, were with her. Charlotte was playing in London at the time, but she was on the phone. It had been Christmas. Pierce was making plans for a funeral while everyone else was having a party. It was hard to tell Sean, who was 8 years old, that his mother was gone. Pierce had to raise 3 kids by himself. All of a sudden, Charlotte was 20 years old. Christopher was 19 years old, and Sean was 8. He said it was the saddest he had ever felt. He felt like giving up, but he kept going. She made him the person he was, he said. He later said, "She will always be a part of every part of my being." In 1994, Pierce Brosnan was finally chosen to play James Bond. A lot of people knew him and his wife, Cassandra Harris, through it. In 1981's For Your Eyes Only, she played a Bond girl. She was sick with cancer at the time, and she pushed him to try again for the part. She wished he would become 007 before she died. It wasn't just a win when he finally got it. It was both sad and happy at the same time. His first movie role in GoldenEye was a big deal. For all of the James Bond movies, not just this one. The movie had already gone through several directors, and its $60 million budget had grown. MGM was almost out of money. Bond would have been over right then if it had failed. But GoldenEye made $353 million around the world. It cost $8 million just to film that tank chase scene through St. Petersburg. 80% of Brosnan's acts were his own work. One of the scariest ones was a bungee jump off a 220-meter dam in Switzerland. Insurance companies wouldn't cover it because it was so risky. The movie came out exactly 30 years after Diamonds Are Forever, which was Sean Connery's last official Bond movie. It wasn't just another show, it was a coming back. It worked. Nintendo even made the video game GoldenEye 007 because of it. That game changed the business and brought Bond to a whole new group of people. Things kept going well after that. It took all of Brosnan's next 3 Bond movies to make $1.238 billion. However, those wins came at a cost to me. He was still sad about Cassandra's death 6 years ago, when Tomorrow Never Dies came out in 1997. He put all of that pain into the role. It cost $12 million to film a chase scene in Saigon. In England, they had to make a whole Vietnamese street just for it. There's not enough in the world. With a 14-minute opening scene, in 1999 was Bond's longest movie. It also had Bond's first big bad guy who was a woman. They even blew up a real oil pipeline with 120 gallons of gasoline, which made a fireball that could be seen from 10 miles away. Then in 2002, Die Another Day came out. It marked the 40th anniversary of Bond, and could have killed Brosnan. He was parasurfing when something went wrong, and 30-foot waves pulled him under. He ended up in the hospital because he was too cold. In the same movie, there was a $300,000 Aston Martin that couldn't be seen, and a huge ice house in Iceland that was made from 1,000 tons of ice. But Brosnan wasn't just a big hit at the movies. In 1996, he won the Saturn Award for Best Actor. Why was it so crazy? Because he beat Sean Connery, who was up for The Rock that same year. It was the first time a new Bond was better than an old one. After Glass, Steven Spielberg called Brosnan to give him the part of Indiana Jones. He turned it down because he wanted to stay true to Bond. It's likely that choice cost him $50 million. But it showed how much he cared about the part. It looked like everything was fine. Then 2004 came along. He was making movies in the Bahamas called After the Sunset. Things were fine. He was in 4 James Bond movies that made $1.4 billion. He worked out a lot and came up with great ideas for Bond 21. The phone then rang at 2:47 p.m. Those in charge let him go. There was no notice or explanation. It was a 47-second call. You did a great job as James Bond. Thanks a lot. Thank you. That was it. The fact that his movies did so well made it cooler. At the time, Die Another Day had made $431.9 million, which was the most ever for a James Bond movie. But the people who made the movie already knew they wanted Bond to be younger. They waited until he was by himself and weak before hitting him. Everything changed in just 3 days. 3 movie projects fell through. The studios pulled out. Later texts between the companies showed that he was seen as too Bond and hard to cast in any other role. This man's price cut from $12 million to $3 million. 12 people on his team had to be let go. He fell into a deep sadness. When the Casino Royale trailer came out, his kids saw him cry. That moment hurt him a lot. No one even said goodbye when his job was given to someone else. They had been trying other actors for 2 years while acting like they still believed in him. It turned out, being lied to hurt more than being fired. In 1994 though, just a few months before he became James Bond, something else was going on. Something strange happened. He met Keely Shea Smith at a beach party in Cabo San Lucas on April 8 at 7:30 p.m. They got along right away because she was a reporter. She didn't care about the fame. She liked him for who he was, not what he did. They talked for 2 hours. In 3 weeks he flew her to meet his kids. After 6 months she moved in. They really did have a bond. Over the years that friendship was the only thing he had when everything else fell apart. They got married in Ireland in 2001. It cost $2.3 million for the event. The event took place at Ballintubber Abbey, a church that has been open for almost 800 years. There were only 100 people on the list, and Judi Dench and Liam Neeson were among them. Brosnan dressed in an Irish kilt. He cried when Keely walked down the aisle. She died in 2013 when she was only 41 years old. Her death wasn't just sad though. It was the 3rd time in the same family that this dream had come true. Her grandma died of cancer of the ovaries. Both of her mothers had died when they were 43 years old. Now Charlotte. At the time of her death, she was 2 years younger than her mother. Charlotte put up a good fight. She fought the cancer that slowly spread inside her for 3 years. It is called the silent killer for a reason. Oral cancer. It's often too late by the time it's found. No one saw what Pierce Brosnan was going to say coming. The former James Bond is getting ready for the worst at age 71. At the age of 43, his first wife died of ovarian cancer. Then at age 41, his daughter died of the same illness. Now something has taken place that's making him face his worst fear. This is the man who played the hardest spy in the world. He is in a fight he can't win. Everyone is scared about what he's going to do next. His birthday is May 16, 1953, and he was born in Drogheda, Ireland. He didn't have much when he was born. There was no money, no family history, and it turned out no father. Pierce's father, Thomas, a carpenter, vanished when he was very young. He couldn't remember his face, voice, or even being there. He seemed to have disappeared. May, his mother, had to carry the load. Her life was already starting to fall apart, but she worked as a nurse to keep it together. But she made a hard choice in 1957. She went to London to look for work, giving Pierce, who was 4 years old, a ride back to Ireland. She had no other choice. Still, that choice made Pierce's young life worse in another way. A short break turned into 7 long years of being apart. He went from living with his grandparents in Navan to living with an uncle and aunt in Trim during that time. There were new rules for each house. New places and people you don't know. Pierce didn't stay long enough to feel like he belonged. To stay alive, he learned to be quiet and watch. He was always the new kid and the odd one out. His teachers saw something in him. He was smart but quiet. He looked out the window all the time and was never really there. Then 1964 came along and changed everything. He went to Greenock, Scotland when he was 11 years old. His mother got married again. William Carmichael, her new husband, worked in a plant. It was nice of him to wait. That being said, this new home made the boy feel both happy and sad because he had grown up without one. Pierce was torn. He was mad and happy to see his mom again. She now had a new man in her life who wasn't his father. William tried anyway. Pierce learned small things from him, like how to trust again and fish. He never tried too hard. He never tried to take someone else's place. William took Pierce to the movies one day. The movie was Goldfinger and it was 1964. As James Bond, Sean Connery, lit up the screen, everything changed that night. Pierce also cared about Bond as a person. Pierce had never felt anything like him before. Bond was strong. Bond was sure of himself. Bond was in charge. Pierce also wished to be that way. Pierce did something brave when he was 16 years old. He quit London school and went to St. Martin's School of Art. He didn't have any money or a clear plan, but he was really interested in drawing. Frank Lloyd Wright and Lucian Freud were two people he really liked. It wasn't even on his mind to be an actor at that time. His main interests were drawing and designing. His friends came from wealthier homes, but he got by on toast and tea. His goal was to show that he belonged, but fate had other ideas. Pierce found a theatre school in South London by accident in 1971 while he was still studying art. He saw a fire eater getting ready to do his act. Pierce didn't leave. He asked if he could try. That one moment changed his whole path. The group noticed something about him. He was brave and had a natural presence. They asked him to join. He had never been on stage before, but now it all made sense. He had gone into a world of danger and beauty, just like James Bond. Not long after that, Pierce joined the Drama Centre Britain. He worked out more than ever for 3 years from 1973 to 1976. It was tough at school. More than 60% of the kids quit. It was hard to be a teacher. They broke kids down to put them back together again. Some quit. Some of them broke down. Pierce kept going though. He had extra jobs. He learned about Shakespeare. He even learned how to do mime and circus shows. Back then it was very expensive at £1,200 a year. Pierce didn't give up though. A play called Wait Until Dark gave him his first big break in 1976. The movie was a thriller, and Pierce played a figure that made people feel bad. The director thought there was something cold and disturbing about him. That edge worked. He played a brave character in Tennessee Williams' hard play The Red Devil Battery Sign the following year. The play didn't do well in the US, but Pierce brought it to life in London. His acting was praised by critics. All of a sudden people started to notice. He then went to movies. In 1980 he had a small part in The Mirror Cracked with Elizabeth Taylor that you might have missed. He was only shown for a short time. It was only £50, but it was something. In the same year he was in The Long Good Friday with Bob Hoskins and Helen Mirren. He played a small part in the IRA. The movie wasn't a big hit at first, but it became a cult favorite over time. There Pierce was quietly making his way to fame. Pierce Brosnan wasn't well known outside of the UK in 1982. He had done some small roles on British TV and in the theater, but nothing big. Then something strange happened. He went to try out for a small part on a new show called Remington Steele, not as the star but as someone who was killed. That might have been the end, just one scene, but someone at NBC saw something good in him. They saw charisma, screen presence and something that drew them in. So they called him back, but this time it wasn't for a small part. It was for the lead role. Everything changed because of that choice. A skilled American con artist in his 50s came up with the original plan for Remington Steele. He was 29 years old, young, Irish and not well known in the US. The makers did take a chance though. A lot of well-known American actors, more than 200, applied. Bruce Willis got the part. He almost lost the part because of his Irish accent. Executives were afraid that American watchers wouldn't accept a lead from another country, but as soon as he played the part, he was Remington Steele. People loved him because he was cool, smooth and mysterious. The show's first episode aired on October 1, 1982. Right away it was a hit. It was NBC's second most popular news show. 15.6 million people watched every week in its first year alone. But the ride wasn't easy. In fact, the show ended after its fourth season in 1986. Fans were very angry. They changed their minds. It came back for one more run. The last show aired in February 1987, and almost 26 million people watched it. It's not often that a show ends with such a great ending. Remington Steele made NBC more than $50 million a year just from ads when it was at its best. Another $200 million came in from sales in other countries. More than 80 countries watched the show. In America, something strange took place. The number of people applying for private detective licenses rose by 340% from 1983 to 1987. It was clear that Brosnan's cool and smart figure touched a nerve. Happiness did not come free though. Reviewers were already saying that Brosnan should play James Bond 2 months after the show began. Leisure Weekly said in January 1983 that he was the most Bond-like actor since Sean Connery. After only a few months, Bond director Albert Covey Broccoli got in touch. He looked around. He was also interested. By 1984, the rumors were flying everywhere. NBC got into it. Their ads gave off an air of Brosnan's secret agent vibe. TV Guide put him on the cover and asked, "Is he the next James Bond?" Anne Fleming, who was married to Ian Fleming, said in public that Brosnan looked and acted just like her husband had imagined Bond would look and act. At the same time, Brosnan was getting a lot of praise from critics. In the same year, he was up for a Golden Globe for his part in Nancy Astor. It was only his second big TV part. He was up against greats like Anthony Hopkins and John Gielgud. After all that, Brosnan almost won. People who work in the field said he lost by only 3 votes. Even the real Astor family was impressed by how well he did, who had been against the series at first. His journey as James Bond wasn't going to be easy. Most people think that he was first asked to be Bond in 1985. Not true. He was actually in the running for the part in 1983 with A View to a Kill. Roger Moore wasn't sure if he wanted to be in another movie, but Pierce Brosnan was ready to go. They met on the set of For Your Eyes Only, in which Brosnan's wife Cassandra Harris had a small part. Broccoli looked at him and said, "He's my guy if he can act." But the studio got scared. Moore was offered a big reward of more than $3.5 million to pay it back. Again, Brosnan's shot was pushed back. After that, something even worse took place in 1986. There would be no more Remington Steele. But when word spread that Brosnan might be the next Bond, more people watched the show. NBC saw a chance. They undid the cancellation and asked for a short 5th season. Brosnan still had a job to do. He couldn't make Bond movies because of that. It was terrible. People used the recognition he got from being linked to James Bond against him. He was stuck. While he finished the last season of Remington Steele, the producers of Bond went on to other projects. The part went to Timothy Dalton. For both Brosnan and Bond, that moment changed everything. Brosnan had a friend named Dalton. He had to smile even though it hurt to lose the part. The Bond played by Dalton was edgier and rougher. Things did not go well. It failed to do well in the US, where it only made $34 million. Brosnan stood outside and watched. He was aware that he could have brought something else. Fans call the years between 1986 and 1994 the lost years. But Brosnan didn't go away. He picked smart things. He played a British spy in the Cold War movie The Fourth Protocol, which came out in 1987. It wasn't Bond, but it was pretty close. A movie he was in was Nomad's 1986, getting to show his range in a supernatural part. In Diet Coke ads he even played a clean-cut hero in a tux. Just a little nod to James Bond. It was in the late 1970s that Pierce Brosnan met Cassandra Harris. She had already been working as an actor. Sandra Colleen Waits was born in Sydney in 1948. As soon as they met there was a spark. Pierce had no plans to fall in love. He only liked how pretty she was. But something took place. They moved in together quickly in Wimbledon. They got married on December 27, 1980. Cassandra had just gone through a very hard breakup, so this new part of her life was very important to her. Charles and Christopher were her children from that marriage. Pierce didn't think about it. He fit right in with them like he had always been there. Demetrius Harris, Cassandra's ex-husband, died of a heart attack. Pierce officially took the kids in as his own in 1986. They used his name. But there was more to it than that. Pierce never had a father figure in his life, so he did everything he could to be the dad he never had. He said, "I wasn't a father one time. I was just Pierce. After that I became a dad." Forsyth and Pierce had a son together in 1983. They named him Sean. That made 5 of them. It felt warm and full. The kids got along and Pierce's job was getting better. But family came first.